Welcome to Peaceful Nightfall. Tonight's story is here to help you slow down, relax your mind, and gently let go of the day. Get comfortable, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to rest. Tonight's story is Weathered Wooden Steps. The warm sun's rays still lingered on my skin as I made my way down the winding path that led from the cliffside to the small cove below. The sound of the waves gently lapping at the shore created a soothing melody that seemed to match the rhythm of my breath. With each deliberate step, I felt myself becoming more grounded, more connected to the world around me. The scent of salt water and seaweed filled my nostrils, transporting me back to countless childhood summers spent playing in this very cove. As I walked along the water's edge, the soft sand shifting beneath my feet like a gentle tide, I couldn't help but recall the countless afternoons I'd spent combing these shores for hidden treasures, shells, sea glass, and driftwood sculptures, crafted by the waves themselves. The warm breeze carried the sweet scent of blooming beach grasses, weaving a subtle harmony with the rhythmic pulse of the ocean's undertow. With each slow breath, my worries seemed to ebb away like the receding tide, leaving me feeling light and free, suspended in this moment of perfect balance between earth and sea. As I rounded a bend in the path, the cove's gentle slope gave way to a series of weathered wooden steps, worn smooth by the constant ebb and flow of the tide. The scent of old wood and salt water enveloped me as I descended, my footsteps deliberate and slow, each one sinking into the worn wood like a promise. The sound of the waves grew louder now, a soothing murmur that seemed to match the rhythm of my heartbeat, and I felt myself becoming one with the ocean's pulse, the world slowing its pace to match mine. As I reached the bottom step, the wooden slats gave way to a smooth expanse of weathered stone, worn into a gentle slope that led me further down into the cove. The sound of the waves grew louder still, a constant ebb and flow that seemed to pulse through every cell in my body. With each slow breath, I felt myself becoming more attuned to this rhythm, my senses drinking in the salty air and the soft lapping of the water against the shore. As I descended further into the cove, the stone beneath my feet grew slick with seawater, and the sound of the waves became a constant melody that seemed to seep into my very bones. The air was filled with the sweet scent of kelp and the distant call of a gull, its cry blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the ocean. I breathed deeply, feeling the salty mist on my skin as I made my way along the edge of the water, the waves lapping gently at my feet like a soothing caress. The world seemed to slow further, as if time itself had become fluid and malleable, stretching out before me like a warm, inviting beach towel. The sensation of the cool water lapping at my feet was like a gentle whisper, urging me deeper into the cove's tranquil heart. As I walked, the stones beneath my feet shifted and settled, like an old friend's familiar rhythm, guiding me along the curve of the shore. The air grew thick with the scent of seaweed and salt water, mingling with the distant calls of seagulls, their cries carried on the breeze like a soft, soothing melody. With each deliberate step, I felt my worries slipping away, like grains of sand tumbling down a slow-moving dune, leaving me feeling light, free, and suspended in this moment of perfect balance between earth and sea. As I reached the end of the cove, where the stones gave way to a soft expanse of sandy beach, I slowed my pace, allowing the gentle rhythm of the waves to guide me further still. The air grew heavier with the scent of salt and seaweed, and the sound of the gulls' cries blended seamlessly with the ocean's melody, creating a symphony that seemed to reverberate deep within my chest. With each slow breath, I felt myself becoming one with this tranquil landscape, the world stretching out before me like an endless shimmering tapestry. As I stood at the edge of the sandy beach, the gentle lapping of the waves against my skin was like a soothing balm, calming any lingering tensions within me. The air grew heavier with the scent of seaweed and saltwater, mingling with the distant calls of seagulls as they rode the coastal breeze. With each deliberate step, I felt myself sinking deeper into this tranquil world, the rhythm of the ocean's melody guiding me further still. As I stood there, the soft sand shifting beneath my feet like a gentle massage, the sound of the waves grew louder, their rhythmic pulse beating in time with my own slow breathing. The air thickened with the scent of seaweed and salt water, mingling with air. The distant calls of seagulls as they rode the coastal breeze, their cries blending seamlessly with the ocean's melody. With each deliberate step, I felt myself becoming one with this tranquil landscape, the world stretching out before me like an endless, shimmering tapestry. The stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, and I felt my worries slowly drifting away on the tide of time, leaving me suspended in a state of perfect balance between earth and earth. And sea. As I stood there, the stars brightening above, I felt my awareness expanding to encompass not just the ocean's melody, but also the subtle vibrations of the earth beneath my feet. The sandy beach seemed to hum with a gentle energy, like a tuning fork resonating in harmony with the universe. With each slow breath, I felt myself merging with this primordial rhythm, the pulse of the planet and the beat of the waves synchronizing within me. As I breathed in the salty air, the scent of seaweed mingling with the ocean's mist, the world around me began to blur, like a watercolor painting left out in the sun. The sound of the waves grew softer, their rhythmic pulse beating in time with my own slow breathing, as if we were two old friends, swaying together in harmony. The stars above twinkled like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, and I felt my awareness expanding to encompass not just the ocean's melody, but also the subtle vibrations of the earth beneath my feet. The sandy beach humming with a gentle energy that resonated deep within me. As the stars brightened above, the sand beneath my feet began to shift and swirl like a gentle eddy in a stream. The ocean's melody grew softer still, its rhythmic pulse beating in time with the subtle vibrations of the earth. I felt myself becoming one with this primordial rhythm, the pulse of the planet and the beat of the waves synchronizing within me. With each slow breath, the world around me grew more distant, like a mist-shrouded mountain range seen only from afar. The scent of seaweed and salt water mingled with the ocean's mist, carrying me deeper into this tranquil landscape, where time and space seemed to bend and flex like a gentle reed in the breeze. The sandy beach continued to shift and swirl beneath my feet, as if the very fabric of reality was gently stirring, releasing tiny ripples that merged with the ocean's melody, creating an undulating harmony that resonated deep within me. The stars above twinkled like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, their soft light infusing the air with a gentle luminescence that seemed to seep into my pores, filling me with a sense of peace and tranquility. As I breathed in the salty air, the scent of seaweed mingling with the ocean's mist, the world around me grew even more distant, like a mist-shrouded mountain range seen only from afar, its contours blurring as the boundaries between earth and sea dissolved into a soft, shimmering haze that enveloped me. As I stood there, lost in the terrain, undulating harmony of the ocean's melody and the sandy beach's subtle vibrations, my gaze drifted to the nearby dunes, where a lone figure emerged from the mist-shrouded landscape like a ghostly apparition. The figure moved with slow, deliberate movements, its presence weaving a gentle spell that drew me deeper into the tranquil atmosphere. The scent of seagrass and damp sand wafted towards me, carrying the whispers of ancient secrets and hidden truths on its moist breeze. The figure's pace slowed further, as if it were savoring each step across the dunes, leaving behind a trail of crushed seagrass and tiny shells that glinted like miniature moons in the starlight. The air grew heavier with the scent of damp earth and decaying seaweed, releasing whispers of forgotten tales into the misty veil that shrouded the landscape. As I breathed in this primordial bouquet, my footsteps ceased, lost in the rhythmic pulse of the waves and the slow, deliberate movements of the figure on the dunes. Time stretched out before me like a canvas of endless possibility, where moments blurred and merged like the shifting sands beneath my feet, carrying me deeper into this timeless realm where the ocean's melody and the earth's subtle vibrations harmonized in perfect synchrony. As the figure reached the crest of the dunes, its pace slowed to a gentle pause, as if it were savoring the view that unfolded before it, a panorama of sandy shoreline, weathered driftwood, and the dark silhouette of rocky outcroppings rising like sentinels from the waves. The air thickened with the scent of damp sand and seaweed, releasing whispers of forgotten tides and ancient currents into the mist-shrouded veil that shrouded the landscape. The figure's pause seemed to stretch on forever, as if it were suspended in a state of quiet contemplation, its gaze lost in the vast expanse of sea and sky. The mist swirling around us grew denser, tendrils curling around my ankles like ethereal fingers, drawing me closer to the dune's secrets. The scent of damp sand and seaweed deepened, releasing whispers of ancient stories into the veil that shrouded the landscape. As I breathed in this primordial aroma, the figure's gaze slowly shifted, its eyes locking onto some hidden truth etched upon the sandy dunes. Its pace resumed, slow and deliberate, weaving a spell that drew me deeper into the tranquil atmosphere, where time itself seemed to bend and warp, like the waves crashing against the shore. The figure's footsteps carried me further along the dune's crest, the rhythmic pulse of the waves and the soft crunch of sand beneath my feet, merging into a soothing melody that harmonized with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore. The mist surrounding us thickened, tendrils curling around my ankles like a lover's caress, as the scent of damp earth and decaying seaweed released whispers of ancient tales into the veil that shrouded the landscape. The air grew heavier with the promise of secrets yet to be unearthed. As the figure's pace slowed to match the patient rhythm of the waves, its gaze lost in the endless expanse of sea and sky. As the figure's footsteps continued their slow cadence, the mist began to clear, revealing a narrow path winding its way down the dune's flank, like a serpent uncoiling from the sand. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying seaweed, releasing whispers of ancient tales into the veil that shrouded the landscape. The figure's pace slowed further, as if it were savoring the moment, its gaze lost in the endless expanse of sea and sky. The rhythmic pulse of the waves and the soft crunch of sand beneath my feet merged into a soothing melody that harmonized with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore. As the mist dissipated, the path unfolded like a ribbon unwinding from the dune's flank, beckoning us downward into the valley below. The air grew heavier with the scent of damp earth and decaying seaweed, releasing whispers of ancient tales into the veil that shrouded the landscape. The figure's pace slowed further, its gaze lingering on some hidden truth etched upon the sandy slope. Its footsteps carried me down the winding path, the rhythmic pulse of the waves and the soft crunch of sand beneath my feet merging into a soothing melody that harmonized with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore. The dune's crest receded, replaced by a tapestry of wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze, their sweet fragrance wafting up to mingle with the primordial scent of the sea. The figure's pace slowed further as it reached the valley floor, where the air was alive with the soft hum of insects and the sweet whispers of the wildflowers. The rhythmic pulse of the waves continued to harmonize, with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore, now a distant melody that underscored the tranquil atmosphere of the valley. The figure's gaze lingered on some hidden truth, etched upon the sandy slope, as its footsteps carried me through the tapestry of wildflowers, their delicate petals unfolding like tiny stars in the afternoon sun. The gentle hum of insects and the sweet whispers of the wildflowers enveloped me like a soft blanket, as the figure's footsteps carried me across the valley floor. The warm sunlight filtering through the dune's crest above cast a serene glow upon the landscape, imbuing every petal and every grain of sand with an air of quiet reverence. With each slow step, the scent of damp earth and decaying seaweed grew stronger, as if the very essence of the sea had seeped into the soil itself, mingling with the fragrance of the wildflowers in a heady brew that filled my senses with its calming presence. As the figure's footsteps carried me across the valley floor, the warm sunlight filtering through the dune's crest above cast long shadows across the landscape, like gentle fingers tracing patterns on the sand. The scent of damp earth and decaying seaweed mingled with the sweet fragrance of the wildflowers, releasing whispers of ancient tales into the air as the rhythmic pulse of the waves continued to harmonize with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore, now a distant melody that underscored the tranquil atmosphere of the valley. The figure's gaze lingered on some hidden truth, etched upon the sandy slope. It's the Rashandarao, or I will row, or to deem you way me. Oh! Presence suffused with an air of quiet reverence, as the slow rhythm of my breathing synchronized with the soft crunch of sand beneath my feet. The gentle hum of insects and the sweet whispers of the wildflowers, blending into a soothing melody that enveloped me like a soft blanket. As I walked, the warmth of the sun on my skin began to mingle with the subtle scent of salt water carried by the breeze, and I felt myself becoming one with the landscape, my footsteps slowing to match the gentle cadence of the waves. The soft rustle of leaves in the nearby scrubland created a soothing background hum, like a chorus of tiny voices whispering secrets only known to me. The figure's gaze continued to linger on some hidden truth etched upon the sandy slope, its presence suffused with an air of quiet reverence as the rhythmic pulse of the waves harmonized with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore, now a distant melody that underscored the tranquil atmosphere of the valley. With each slow step, the sensation of being suspended in time grew stronger, as if the very fabric of reality had relaxed its grip on me, allowing me to drift effortlessly through the warm coastal air, surrounded by the sweet whispers of the wildflowers and the soft hum of insects. The gentle hum of the waves continued to underscore the tranquil atmosphere as I walked further along the valley floor, my footsteps slowing to match the rhythm of the tide. The warmth of the sun on my skin mingled with the subtle scent of salt water carried by the breeze, and I felt myself becoming one with the landscape. The sandy slope gave way to a gentle incline, where tufts of beach grass swayed softly in the morning light, their delicate fronds dancing like ballerinas across the slope. As I climbed higher, the fragrance of the wildflowers grew stronger, infused with the sweet scent of ripening fruit from the nearby coastal orchards. The air was alive with the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle chirping of birds, a symphony that harmonized with my own slow breaths, as if we were all connected in a shared rhythm of tranquility. The incline gentled into a flat expanse, where tall stalks of beach grass swayed in unison like a chorus line of dancers. The scent of saltwater and wildflowers mingled with the sweetness of ripe fruit, carried on the breeze that rustled the leaves of coastal trees. As I strolled across this tranquil landscape, my footsteps synchronized with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore, now a distant hum that underscored the peacefulness of the scene. The warmth of the sun on my skin and the soft whispers of the wildflowers blended into a soothing melody that enveloped me like a soft blanket. As I strolled across this tranquil landscape, the rhythmic pulse of the waves grew fainter, replaced by the gentle hush of the coastal grasses as they swayed in harmony with my footsteps. The scent of ripe fruit wafted on the breeze, mingling with the sweetness of blooming wildflowers to create a heady perfume that filled my senses. With each deliberate step, I felt myself becoming one with the land, my pace slowing to match the unhurried cadence of the natural world around me. The warmth of the sun seeped into my skin, as if it too were working in tandem with my breaths to calm and soothe my very being. As I wandered further along the coastal path, the rhythmic sway of the beach grasses harmonized with the gentle lapping of the tide against the shore, creating a soothing melody that seemed to seep into my bones. The scent of wildflowers and ripe fruit mingled on the bill breeze, transporting me to a place where time stood still, and the world was bathed in a soft, golden light. My footsteps slowed to match the pace of the waves, and I found myself standing at the edge of a secluded cove, its tranquil waters reflecting the serene atmosphere like a mirror. The gentle lapping of the tide created a soothing melody that enveloped me as I stood there, my feet sinking slightly into the soft sand. The warmth of the sun seeped deeper into my skin, and I felt my breath slowing to match the unhurried cadence of the waves. As I gazed out at the calm waters, I noticed the subtle play of light on the surface, like 1,000 tiny mirrors reflecting the serene atmosphere. The beach grasses swayed in harmony with the tide's gentle pulse, and I felt my own movements becoming synchronized with theirs, as if I were one with the natural world around me. The warmth of the sun seeped deeper into my skin, and I felt my breath slowing to match the unhurried cadence of the waves. As I gazed out at the calm waters, the subtle play of light on the surface created a mesmerizing display of tiny ripples and quiet eddies, like an endless dance of silver threads weaving together in perfect harmony. The beach grasses continued their gentle sway, as if urging me to join their soothing rhythm, and I found myself surrendering to the natural world's peaceful pulse, my footsteps slowing to match the tide's unhurried pace. As I breathed in the tranquil air, the scent of wildflowers and ripe fruit grew stronger, transporting me further into this serene realm. My feet, still sinking softly into the sand, began to shift slightly, as if drawn by an unseen force towards a weathered wooden door, half hidden by the beach grasses. The door's gentle creaking seemed to harmonize with the waves' soft lapping, creating a soothing melody that enveloped me like a warm embrace. As I reached out to touch the weathered wood, the scent of old books and whispered secrets wafted out, mingling with the sweet aroma of wildflowers and ripe fruit. The door's gentle creaking slowed to a stop, and I felt myself being drawn into the quiet darkness beyond, the soft sand shifting beneath my feet like a silent whisper. My breath synchronized with the tide's unhurried cadence, and I stepped across the threshold, leaving the warm sunlight behind. As I stepped across the threshold, the darkness enveloped me like a soft blanket, and my eyes slowly adjusted to the faint luminescence that seeped through the weathered wood slats. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and whispered secrets, and I felt myself becoming one with the quiet space within. My footsteps creaked softly on the worn wooden floorboards. As I made my way deeper into the darkness, the soft rustle of pages turning in some distant corner, drawing me further in. The silence was almost palpable, a living entity that wrapped itself around me like a gentle shroud. As I breathed in the musty air, the soft creaking of the wooden floorboard song beneath my feet seemed to synchronize with the beat of my heart, and I felt myself becoming one with this quiet, ancient place. The darkness began to take on a subtle texture, like the finest velvet, as my eyes adjusted further, revealing the outlines of worn bookshelves stretching up towards the ceiling, their contents spilling out onto the floor like a treasure trove of forgotten knowledge. As I wandered deeper into this mystical library, the silence and darkness seemed to heighten my senses, allowing me to detect the faintest whispers of ancient tales carried on the air. That. Us. The worn bookshelves loomed above me like sentinels, their wooden spines creaking softly as they shifted ever so slightly with each subtle movement I made. My feet glided smoothly across the floorboards, leaving behind a trail of soft impressions in the dust that clung to my skin. The worn wooden spines seemed to hum a gentle melody as they settled back into their ancient slumber, and I found myself standing at the threshold of a narrow aisle, flanked by towering shelves of leather-bound tomes that stretched up towards the ceiling like sentinels guarding some long-forgotten treasure. The air was heavy with the scent of old parchment and whispered secrets, and my footsteps were swallowed whole by the soft rustle of pages turning in the silence as I made my way deeper into this mystical library, the worn floorboards creaking softly beneath my feet like a lullaby. The towering shelves seemed to lean in, their leather-bound spines whispering secrets only known to the ancient tomes they held within. The air was heavy, with the scent of aged paper and forgotten knowledge, and I felt myself becoming one with this mystical place, my footsteps quiet on the worn floorboards as I delved deeper into the darkness. The soft creaking of the wooden spines seemed to synchronize with the beat of my heart, and I breathed in deeply, feeling the silence wrap itself around me like a gentle shroud. As I wandered further down the narrow aisle, the outlines of ancient texts began to emerge from the shadows, their yellowed pages crackling softly as they turned with each subtle movement I made. The air grew heavier with the scent of aged paper and forgotten knowledge as I delved deeper into the mystical library, my footsteps quiet on the worn floorboards. The soft creaking of the wooden spines seemed to synchronize with the beat of my heart, and I breathed in deeply, feeling the silence wrap itself around me like a gentle shroud. As I wandered further down the narrow aisle, the outlines of ancient texts began to emerge from the shadows, their yellowed pages crackling softly as they turned with each subtle movement I made. The worn wooden spines seemed to hum a gentle melody as they settled back into their ancient slumber, and I felt myself becoming one with this mystical place, my footsteps quiet on the worn floorboards as I delved deeper into the darkness, the scent of old parchment growing stronger with each step, until it was like nothing else existed but the library itself, a living, breathing entity that wrapped itself around me like a warm embrace. The gentle hum of the wooden spines grew softer, merging with the rhythmic beat of my heart as I continued to wander through the shelves, my footsteps quiet on the worn floorboards. The scent of old parchment enveloped me, a comforting presence that seemed to draw me deeper into the heart of the library. As I turned a corner, the soft glow of candles flickered to life, casting a warm golden light over the dusty tomes and ancient manuscripts that lined the shelves. The air was heavy with the weight of forgotten knowledge, yet somehow it felt alive, vibrating with an energy that seemed to resonate deep within my very being. The soft glow of the candles danced across the pages, illuminating ancient maps and mysterious symbols that seemed to hold secrets only the darkness could reveal. I breathed in deeply, feeling the weight of forgotten knowledge settle around me like a gentle mist, as the scent of old parchment grew stronger, mingling with the sweet aroma of salt water carried on the breeze from the cliffside below. My footsteps slowed, and I allowed myself to drift toward the edge of the shelves, where the soft glow of candles gave way to the warm golden light of the setting sun, casting a peaceful slumber over the mystical library. As I stood at the edge of the shelves, the gentle haze of forgotten knowledge swirling around me like a misty veil, I felt my awareness expand to encompass the entire library. The soft hum of the wooden spines and the scent of old parchment weaving together into a soothing melody that seemed to match the rhythm of my own heartbeat. The warmth of the setting sun on my skin seemed to seep deep into my bones, banishing any remaining tension or doubt, leaving me feeling grounded and at peace in this sacred space. I breathed out slowly, and my gaze drifted outward, taking in the serene vista of the cliffside below, where the sky met the sea in a seamless blend of blue and gold. As I stood there, bathed in the warm light of the setting sun, the gentle haze of white, forgotten knowledge still swirling around me like a misty veil, I felt my senses slowly begin to untangle from their spellbound trance. The wooden spine's soft hum and the scent of old parchment gradually receded into the background, replaced by the soothing cadence of the waves below, where the tide was steadily creeping in, its gentle lapping against the shore, creating a sense of rhythmic comfort. As I breathed in the salty air, the sound of the waves grew louder, and I felt my awareness slowly shift to focus on the rhythmic motion of the tide. The gentle lapping of the water against the shore created a sense of calm continuity, as if the ocean itself was rocking me into a state of deep relaxation. My body began to sway slightly, mirroring the ebb and flow of the waves, as I allowed myself to be carried by the soothing cadence of the sea. The warmth of the setting sun still lingered on my skin, but it no longer seemed to hold any significance, having been superseded by the calming presence of the ocean. As I swayed to the rhythm of the waves, the cliffside community below me began to stir, their evening routines unfolding like a gentle tide themselves. The scent of cooking wafted up from the cottages, mingling with the salty air as the sky deepened to a soft shade of indigo. Stars beginning to twinkle like diamonds scattered across the fabric of time itself. My breath slowed further, my body relaxing into the motion of the sea, as the sounds of daily life, ocho, laughter, music, and the occasional bark of a dog ocho blended with the waves' gentle lapping, creating a symphony that wrapped around me like a soothing blanket. As I swayed to the rhythm of the waves, the indigo sky above deepened to a velvety blackness, studded with stars that seemed to pulse in harmony with my slow breaths. The scent of cooking wafted up from the cottages, mingling with the salty air as the community below me settled into their evening routines. Routines. A faint light flickered to life in one of the windows, casting a warm glow over the cliffside path where I stood, its gentle pulse mirroring the cadence of my heartbeat. The tide continued its steady ebb and flow, lapping softly against the shore as my body swayed in syncopated rhythm, the world slowing to a pace that matched the gentle rise and fall of my chest. In this tranquil state, time itself seemed to stretch out, allowing me to sink deeper into the soothing embrace of the sea, where every breath became a meditation on the peacefulness that lay just beyond the horizon. The warmth of my skin began to seep into the cool evening air, as if the very essence of the setting sun had infused itself into my pores. The scent of cooking wafted up from the cottages, mingling with the salty air and the gentle lapping of the waves, creating a heady aroma that wrapped around me like a comforting shroud. My breath slowed further, my body relaxing into the motion of the sea, as the stars above twinkled like diamonds scattered across the fabric of time itself, their soft light illuminating the path winding down from the cliffside to the community below, where the lights of the cottages seemed to pulse in harmony with my slow heartbeat. The warmth of the evening air enveloped me like a gentle blanket as I breathed in the scent of cooking and the sea's subtle undertones, my body swaying gently in time with the waves lapping against the shore. The stars above seemed to grow brighter, their twinkle weaving together into a celestial tapestry that mirrored the intricate patterns of my own heartbeat. As I stood there, lost in the rhythm of the ocean and the community below, the world around me slowed further, until it felt as though time itself was suspended, allowing me to drift deeper into the soothing embrace of the sea. As my breath synchronized with the waves' steady rhythm, I began to notice the subtle shifts in the air's temperature, a gentle caress that whispered secrets only the cliffside and I shared. The stars above continued their twinkling waltz, casting an ethereal glow on the path winding down from the cliffside to the community below, where candles flickered like tiny lanterns, softly illuminating the evening's tranquility. My skin drank in the warmth of the air, as if the very essence of the setting sun had infused itself into my pores, mingling with the scent of cooking and the sea's subtle undertones, creating a heady aroma that wrapped around me like a comforting shroud. Then, the warmth of the evening air enveloped me further, as if the very fabric of time itself had relaxed, allowing my body to sway gently in harmony with the waves lapping against the shore. The scent of cooking wafted up from the cottages, mingling with the salty air and the soft twinkle of the stars above, creating a heady aroma that wrapped around me like a comforting shroud. My breath slowed further, my body relaxing into the motion of the sea, as I breathed in the subtleties of the evening air. The stars nodded, gentle sparkle weaving together into a celestial tapestry that mirrored the intricate patterns of my own heartbeat. The path winding down from the cliffside to the community below seemed to fade into the distance, as if it too had succumbed to the soothing rhythm of the ocean, allowing me to drift deeper into the peacefulness that lay just beyond the horizon. As my breath slowed further, the warmth of the evening air seeped deeper into my skin, like a gentle mist, settling over the cliffside's lush greenery. The scent of baking wafted up from the cottages, mingling with the sea's subtle undertones and the stars' twinkling light, creating a heady aroma that wrapped around me like a comforting shroud. My body swayed gently in harmony with the waves lapping against the shore, as if time itself had slowed to match the rhythm of my heartbeat. The path winding down from the cliffside to the community below seemed to fade into the distance, lost in the soft focus of the evening's tranquility. As I breathed in deeper, the stars' twinkle merged with the scent of baking, transporting me back to childhood memories of helping my grandmother prepare sweet treats for the community's gatherings. The warmth of her kitchen wrapped around me, mingling with the ocean breeze that carried the whispers of the cliffs, as if the very essence of those moments had been distilled into this serene evening. The stars above seemed to grow brighter still, their gentle sparkle weaving together into a tapestry that mirrored the subtle undulations of my own breathing. As I exhaled slowly, the rhythm of the waves lapping against the shore grew more insistent, as if the sea itself was urging me deeper into the peacefulness that lay just beyond the horizon. The scent of baking continued to waft up from the cottages below, mingling with the ocean's subtle undertones and the stars' twinkling light, until it seemed as though the very essence of this serene evening had been distilled into a single, perfect moment. The warmth of the kitchen's wooden beams and the gentle creak of its old rocking chair merged with the ocean breeze, carrying me deeper into memories of lazy afternoons spent watching the sea from my grandmother's window. The scent of fresh-baked cookies wafted up from the oven, mingling with the salty air as I breathed in deeply, allowing myself to drift further into the peacefulness that surrounded me. As I settled deeper into this tranquil state, the stars above began to blur together like a watercolor painting left out in the misty morning air. The scent of baking continued to waft up from the cottages below, carrying with it the whispers of the cliffs and the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. My body swayed gently in harmony with this soothing melody, as if the very rhythm of my heartbeat had become one with the pulse of the ocean. The warmth of the kitchen's wooden beams wrapped around me like a comforting blanket, mingling with the sea air that carried the whispers of the past. Time itself seemed to expand, allowing me to sink deeper into the peacefulness that lay just beyond the horizon, where the scent of fresh-baked cookies merged with the salty air and the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse. As I slipped further into this serene state, the wooden beams of my grandmother's kitchen seemed to stretch out before me like a gentle catwalk, inviting me to walk among the memories stored within its walls. The scent of baking cookies wafted up from the oven, mingling with the sea air that carried the whispers of the cliffs, as I breathed in deeply and allowed myself to be drawn back into the quiet moments spent watching the waves from my grandmother's window. As I walked along the wooden catwalk, the scent of fresh-baked cookies mingled with the sound of distant laughter, carrying me further back in time to lazy summer afternoons spent playing on the beach below. The grains of sand felt warm beneath my bare feet as I searched for shells and pebbles, the rhythmic ebb and flow of the waves creating a soothing melody that seemed to match the beat of my heart. As I wandered further back in time, the warmth of the sand beneath my feet gave way to the coolness of the dew-kissed grass, and the sound of the waves was replaced by the sweet songs of birds awakening from their morning slumber. Why? The air was filled with the gentle scent of blooming flowers and the soft rustle of leaves as they unfolded themselves to greet the new day. My footsteps quiet on the earthy path, I made my way back to the small stone cottage that stood at the edge of the cliffside community, its chimney puffing out a lazy stream of smoke into the calm morning air. The sound of sizzle and city crackle drifted from within, carrying with it the promise of a warm breakfast waiting patiently on the kitchen table. The earthy scent of the path lingered on my skin as I pushed open the creaky door of the small stone cottage, allowing the warmth and light to spill out onto the dew-kissed grass. The air inside was thick with the aroma of freshly baked bread, mingling with the sound of sizzling bacon and the gentle hum of morning activity. I breathed deeply, feeling my body relax further into the gentle pace of the morning. As I made my way to the kitchen table, where a steaming mug of coffee and a plate of golden brown toast awaited me. The soft ticking of the old grandfather clock on the wall provided a soothing accompaniment to the quiet moments spent savoring the warmth and comfort of this peaceful haven. As I sat at the kitchen table, the warmth of the sunbeams streaming through the windows seeped into my skin, and the gentle aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped me like a soft blanket. The sound of sizzle and crackle from the stove carried on, mingling with the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock to create a sense of peaceful routine. My eyes drifted towards the window, where the clouds were slowly shifting across the sky, their gentle undulations mirroring the slow dance of my own breaths. The warmth on my skin began to shift, as if the sunbeams were tracing the contours of my face, highlighting the gentle curves of my nose and the soft lines around my eyes. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet aroma of blooming flowers, carrying me further back in time, where the sound of waves replaced the ticking of the grandfather clock, and the dew-kissed grass beneath my feet gave way to the soft rustle of sand between my toes. As I breathed in the warm air, the scents of coffee and bread began to meld with the salty tang of the ocean, carried on the gentle breeze that whispered through the open window. The rhythmic pulse of the waves grew stronger, a soothing accompaniment to my slow exhalations as the warmth of the sunbeams seeped deeper into my skin, releasing any remaining tension and leaving me feeling weighted with tranquility. The gentle rhythm of the waves continued to ebb and flow outside, a constant reminder of the peacefulness that surrounded me. As I breathed in deeply, the scents of coffee and bread began to fade, replaced by the sweet aroma of blooming flowers carried on the ocean breeze. The warmth of the sunbeams slowly shifted, tracing the contours of my arms as they rested on the table, and the soft ticking of the grandfather clock grew fainter, like a gentle whisper in the distance. My eyes drifted lazily towards the window, where the clouds had parted to reveal a patch of clear blue sky, its warmth spreading across my face like a soothing balm. The rhythmic pulse of the waves slowed, becoming a steady heartbeat that matched the pace of my own breaths, as I slowly rose from the table and made my way to the window, feeling the gentle breeze carry me further out onto the dew-kissed grass, where the soft rustle of sand beneath my feet replaced the ticking clock and the distant hum of morning activity. As I stood at the edge of the cliffside, the gentle breeze carried the scent of sea salt and seaweed, mingling with the sweetness of blooming beach grasses. The rhythmic pulse of the waves grew stronger, a soothing accompaniment to my slow exhalations as I breathed in deeply, feeling the ocean's energy infuse me with tranquility. The soft rustle of sand beneath my feet began to shift, giving way to the gentle lapping of tiny wavelets against the shore, their soft whispers weaving together with the steady beat of my own heart, until the sounds blurred into a soothing white noise that enveloped me in its calming embrace. As I stood at the edge of the cliffside, the gentle lapping of the wavelets against the shore grew softer still, their tiny rhythms weaving together with my own breaths to create a soothing melody that seemed to match the ebb and flow of my thoughts. The air was filled with the sweet scent of beach grasses, their delicate blades swaying gently in the breeze like a chorus of tiny ballerinas. As I breathed in deeply, feeling the ocean's energy infuse me with tranquility, my eyes followed the path of a lone seagull as it glided effortlessly on the wind, its outstretched wings casting a shadow across the sand that seemed to mirror the quieting of my own mind. The sun's warmth slowly crept up my legs, banishing any lingering chill from the morning air as I stood at the edge of the cliffside. The soft rustle of beach grasses grew more insistent, their delicate blades swaying in harmony with the gentle breeze that carried the scent of salt and seaweed. As I breathed out slowly, the rhythmic pulse of the waves seemed to synchronize with my own heartbeat, a soothing accompaniment to my quiet contemplation. The world felt suspended in this moment of perfect stillness, where time itself had no bounds. My eyes followed the path of a lone cloud, drifting lazily across the sky, its wispy tendrils stretching out like tentative fingers as I breathed in deeply, feeling the ocean's tranquility seep into my very bones. The warmth of the sun spread up my back, a gentle caress that seemed to awaken the sleepy rhythms of the earth itself. As I stood there, the soft rustle of beach grasses grew more insistent, their delicate blades swaying in harmony with the breeze's whispers. The scent of salt and seaweed mingled with the sweetness of blooming flowers, weaving together into a tapestry of tranquility that enveloped me like a soft blanket. As I stood there, the warm light of the sun danced across the sand, tracing intricate patterns that seemed to hold secrets only the beach knew. The rhythmic pulse of the waves grew more pronounced, their gentle lapping a counterpoint to my own slow breathing. My eyes followed the path of a small crab as it scuttled sideways across the sand, its tiny pincers clicking softly in rhythm with the waves' ebb and flow. As I exhaled slowly, my gaze drifted downward to the ocean's glassy surface, where a school of small fish darted just beneath the surface, their shimmering scales catching the sun's rays like a scattering of diamonds. The gentle undulation of the water's edge seemed to echo the soft swaying of the beach grasses, as if the very fabric of reality had conspired to lull me into a deeper state of tranquility. As I breathed in deeply, the scent of salt and seaweed mingled with the sweetness of blooming beach flowers, their delicate petals unfolding like tiny stars in the warm sunlight. The rhythmic pulse of the waves grew more pronounced, their gentle lapping a counterpoint to my own slow breathing as I felt the warmth of the sun seep into my very bones. My gaze drifted out across the water, where a lone sailboat glided serenely across the surface, its white sails billowing like a cloud as it left a trail of ripples in its wake. The soft rustle of beach grasses grew more insistent, their delicate blades swaying in harmony with the breeze's whispers as I exhaled slowly, my eyes following the path of a small shorebird as it picked its way delicately across the sand, its tiny feet leaving behind a trail of tiny footprints that seemed to vanish into the very fabric of the beach itself. As I stood there, lost in the soothing symphony of sounds and sensations, my gaze began to wander back inland, tracing the winding path that led up from the beach to the village above. The warm light of the sun cast long shadows across the sand, and the gentle rustle of beach grasses seemed to grow, even more insistent as I breathed in deeply, filling my lungs with the salty air. As I stood there, the warmth of the day began to mellow into a soft golden light, and the scent of salt and seaweed mingled with the sweet aroma of blooming beach flowers, their delicate petals unfolding like tiny stars in the warm sunlight. The rhythmic pulse of the waves grew more pronounced, their gentle lapping a counterpoint to my own slow breathing, as I felt the warmth of the sun seep into my very bones. My gaze drifted inland, tracing the winding path that led up from the beach to the village above, where the thatched roofs of cottages seemed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding hills, their chimneys puffing gentle wisps of smoke into the calm evening air. The soft rustle of beach grasses grew more insistent, their delicate blades swaying in harmony with the breeze's whispers as I exhaled slowly, my eyes following the path of a small shorebird as it picked its way delicately across the sand, its tiny feet leaving behind a trail of tiny footprints that seemed to vanish into the very fabric of the beach itself.